On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Birmingham, Alabama, visiting the home of interior designer Ellie Christopher. Inspired by her Southern upbringing, Ellie creates refined and sophisticated interiors in her so-called cabinet of curiosities. She has a keen eye for the unusual and unexpected and is drawn to quirky pieces which can be found throughout her completely reworked 1960s condo, which exudes a charming vibe with lively color. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Ellie Christopher. Welcome to my home in Birmingham, Alabama. Come on in. Hi, I'm Ellie Christopher and I'm an interior designer. We are in Birmingham, Alabama. I bought my condo in 2017, so I've been here about 8 years. I live here with my cat, Sir Maximus Kittymus. He is my fur baby, and he even has his own self-portrait. My style is a little hard for me to describe. I just tend to purchase the things that I love. Frilly, girly, floofy things, as I like to say. Pink is my favorite color, so you'll see pink throughout the house. And anything with flowers or birds or animals. Actually, I have an affinity for buying things with animals' heads or feet. So it's pretty eclectic, kind of like a cabinet of curiosities. We're currently in my living room. When you walk in the front door, this is the first room you'll walk into. And it is one big space that has to function as a multi-use space. So I have my dining table in the front window, and it has served a multitude of purposes over the years. I like to set it for parties and have trays of food and stuff like that ready for people to use, or set up a bar on it when people come over. But I set the table today for some friends that are going to join me after we're finished and have some champagne and nibbles. My friend Kathleen Varner helped me with the flowers. I have this beautiful old barbotine vase that I bought at an estate sale here in Birmingham. And she just played off of the flowers that are already on the outside of it. It's a beautiful Majolica piece. It's one of my favorite things in my home. It's heavy and it can hold a whole big arrangement. She did such a beautiful job. I love the wispy nature of the flowers that she does. The plates are some that I bought on eBay. I am addicted to eBay. It's a problem. They're old Limoges plates with butterflies. Again, the affinity towards animals is quite apparent. And then I had these napkins made to actually work with my favorite sets of dishes that I have, which are Richard Ginori, and the color is just perfect. These are old French coupes that I bought while shopping with friends, and the ottoman is covered in a scalamandre silk velvet, and it was the ottoman that my mentor gave me. It was her first piece of furniture, so it's very special to me. So when I moved in, I had a whole scheme for this house picked out around this beautiful Pierre Frey fabric. And then when I figured out how many yards of fabric I would need, I realized a very young designer could not quite afford that. So I bought this great, inexpensive white linen and then a tape that's this purpley pink color that's one of my favorites. And I had the tape run along the bottom and up the edge, so it makes kind of like a big U. And I think it's just kind of like eyeliner. It gives a definition to the window without being too ornate. And I did black rods and brass rings and finials, so it had a little bit of a formality without being too fussy. That's something that I learned working for other designers, just a little tweak that helps having everything, rather than having everything match, they can help stand out a little bit. And then I did bamboo shades behind just for a nice added texture. Again, that push and play of formal versus informal. So this is one of my favorite vignettes in my house. I bought this table here at a local antique shop called Hen House. They have beautiful English antiques. It was the perfect piece to fill this space. So I picked up this painting here in front of Max's portrait from High Point. It is by an artist named Peter Keel, and what I found most interesting is he studied under Picasso. So I may never be able to purchase a Picasso, but I have a piece by an artist who studied with him, so that is a nice element for me. My dad grew up going with him, and we would buy antique boxes everywhere, and when I found this tortoiseshell box, I just had to have it. The little brass button and the little ball feet just make me so happy. I bought this starburst clock in High Point as well. I've seen so many starburst mirrors, but not quite as many clocks. It was the perfect little size, and it just finished off this space for me. I also like to collect matchbooks from everywhere I go. So I recently went to see Taylor Swift in Paris, and I got to eat at some really fabulous restaurants, two of which were designed by a very famous interior designer there, Lulu and Giraffe. And so I love to look at those and remember my trip. First thing I ever purchased out of college were these lamps from a store in Atlanta called Park Monceau. It doesn't exist anymore. He has retired. But I was a young designer working for my first job, and I saved all of my pennies. And I went to the store and I told the owner I wanted to buy these, and I had exact money for everything, even the tax. And he would not let me pay full price for them. So they're very special, and they remind me of a time when I was, green and just so excited to learn everything. And they've come with me everywhere I've moved. I even had these pagoda-shaped shades created just to give them a little bit of flair and a little bit of funk. Every year we have a big event in Birmingham, Antiques at the Gardens, and we have these incredible designers that come to speak to us. I like to get my books signed by the designer to remind me of the year and the time that we were there together. Because I have so many, I had this plaster console made, but instead of being a fairly light piece, I asked them to make sure that the shelves were really sturdy so that I could house all of my books there. Most plaster pieces are white. I wanted this to stand out up against the screen that I painted, and I thought the black was just a nice little touch. I have a few antique celery vases that I like to use as vases, but for holidays I will also put silverware in them or straws or things like that to use them as serving pieces. I, again, have some antique boxes that I've picked up over time. I've always wanted a big chinoiserie box, and so when I found that, I just had to have it. This brass lamp is by Westwood, and it's from the 70s. It actually belongs to a client who has not moved into her house yet, so I am borrowing it for the foreseeable future. But it has this beautiful firmway shade on top. They just provide the most beautiful light. It's a great filtered light, and that little added element of a pattern and on top of it just makes it so much more special. As a kid, I grew up taking every kind of art class you could possibly think of. I've taken bronze sculpture classes and all sorts of crazy things, but the consistent element has always been painting. I would not consider myself an artist, but I had this huge wall space when I moved in and I didn't know what to do with it. So I found a screen on eBay that was covered in what was an American flag, painted over it, and just wanted something that felt a little bit like Gracie or de Gournay, but much more colorful and much more cheerful. So it took me a long time to get it done, but I have loved all of the little elements. I've hidden a few of my favorite animals, which are snails, inside the screen. So I like to find those. I forget where I put them over the years. So I have a large outdoor diamond sisal area rug throughout my living room. I have a cat. Sometimes he has accidents and sometimes I have accidents. So I wanted an outdoor rug that would not get dirty, or I wouldn't feel like I had to live daintily in my home. But the space needed something to help ground it. So I have this fantastic zebra rug that I got from a shop here in Birmingham called Paige Albright. And she is my go-to source for all rugs. Literally every rug in my house is from her. I have a beautiful Eglomise painted chinoiserie coffee table. And this swan was a Christmas present to myself. He's pewter and he has emerald eyes. I also love to layer pieces underneath other pieces. So an ottoman under a console, or this little button ottoman that spins. And sometimes when I have friends over, I let them sit on the furniture and I'll sit on the little ottoman. It's just a little whimsical childhood memory. I stole that from my mother. So when I first moved to Birmingham, I had a client who had these pig-shaped ottomans. And I was like, where on earth did you find those? And they're by a company called Abercrombie & Fitch. And you can find them on First Dibs and things like that. But he's a little lion, and he's technically a footstool, but he's leather. And I've named him Leo. Before he came to live with me, he had only lived in one other home. So he was bought off of the showroom floor, lived with a family for, I think, 60 years, and now he lives with me. This was my grandmother's settee. It was in her formal living room, and when she passed away, it was given to me. It was in horrible condition, so I had to rework it, but I am single, and so I wanted to have it in a fun color. And I guess I had watched an Elvis movie, and so I kept singing all over town, "Pink Velvet," and I just couldn't help myself. I had to have a pink sofa. All my friends love it because their husbands would never let them have a pink sofa. But it has some of my favorite fabric in the world is from Dadar, and I love these pillows. This is a Scalamandre pink tiger, and it's velvet, and it's super comfortable. And I just wanted to have this fun little tassel fringe on them just to keep it from being plain or simple. My cat loves to play with it, so I've had to tie a few off because he's eaten them. But I like to look at it and play with it, and it's just a little element that I love. This is an antique Pembroke table that my father gave me, and it's a really versatile piece because you can lift the sides up and make it larger, or you can lower them and keep it fairly diminutive. This has been with me for several years. It's lived in a bunch of different places. At one point it was between a pair of chairs. So it's a great versatile piece, and a little extra storage never hurt anybody. I have an obsession with snails, and so I found this brass snail and I had to have him. I think he's so cute, so great. And then these are little fake cigarettes. They're glass, they're Italian, they're Murano, and I got them here at Design Supply down on the south side. And it's just a little quirky, whimsical piece of art that's, tactile and you can touch it. It's not too precious. Okay, so this is a bamboo bookcase that I was given for Christmas. I was actually only given half of it for Christmas. Along with the gift came an invoice. My mother likes to keep things even between me and my sister, and so she could only pay for half. So that's a little funny story behind this piece, because I only got half of it for Christmas, which I think is hysterical. I'm obsessed with my antique French rock crystal lamps, and I wanted to keep them kind of quirky and I put this really great citron green Firmoy shade on top of it. And I just love the color that it creates in this little space. I layered one of my favorite little paintings, again, another animal. It's a Napoleon painting, but he has a pug face. So he makes me laugh. I got that from a gallery in Charleston. And then the bookshelves themselves are just full of some of my favorite things. I have Tina Turner, of course, because who doesn't want Tina as the gatekeeper to their favorite things. But one of my prized possessions is this little pear. When I was 6, my mom's best friend started a company where she would make porcelain fruits and flowers, and I thought that I could make my pear look exactly like hers. It's definitely not the same, but it's a great memory I have of being in her studio and the time I got to spend with her. So it's my little 6-year-old hands made this little sucker, and I just love it. It's a great little memory of my childhood. This is one of the real pieces, so you can tell that her work is much more detailed and refined compared to my little bitty hands, but I just love to look at all of the details in those pieces. So this is an old basket. Again, I stole from my mother. I keep all of my drawings and plans for projects that I have in the works or things that I've completed. It just keeps them condensed and in the right spot, and it's very easy for me to pull from them. This is a project that I'm working on right now here in Birmingham. It's a great gut and reno, and I can't wait to show that to people once it's more complete. But this is my work zone. So my mother and I used to go to Scott's religiously, and these are a pair of reproduction chairs that we purchased one Sunday afternoon, and I recovered them. They were in a hideous yellow damask. And this is just a funny little pillow that I love. It's from a song that I adore. It's like a hype up song, you know? And it's just a little whimsical piece to keep it from feeling like your grandmother's house. Now let's go to my kitchen. I have a portiere here to keep things closed off for parties if it ever gets too dirty in there. Welcome to my kitchen. When I moved in, the space had black appliances, and it was builder beige, and it was absolutely horrendous. And I didn't have a clue in the world what I wanted to do. But I knew I wasn't prepared or quite ready to replace all of the appliances yet. So I had all of the cabinets painted a high gloss black, and that just helped kind of make them disappear a little bit. I purchased these knobs because they looked like fried eggs to me, like green eggs and ham kind of appearance, just a little funny little detail, but helped pop and stand out on the cabinet themselves. So I bought this bowl, the hen house here in town, and I have slowly started to fill it up with wine corks over the last 7 or 8 years that I've been here. So please don't think I'm an alcoholic, because I didn't drink all of this by myself. And then I have this great Staffordshire cheese board, but it's in the shape of a cow head, and you can lift it up and keep cheese inside of it. And I've done that a couple of times for parties. So these are my fine china. It is Anna Weatherly, Springtime in Budapest, and they have the most beautiful hand-painted little birds and bugs and butterflies and flowers, and I just love to look at them. I don't get to use them very much, but when I do, I love to entertain and have them for everyone to use because they're just special. That's a piece that my mom and I picked out when I was in high school. Why I was picking out fine china in high school, Lord only knows. But I have an addiction to plates, and I keep a slew of plates under the bed. So this is just one of my many collections of plates. So this is one of my napkins. I have several sets of napkins, but I love the detail on it, the embroidery and the little loops on the edges. And every now and then I'll use them as large placemats or use it as a way to define a space when I set up a bar. I also have this really fun little print of a cat flying a kite that I picked up when I was on Thanksgiving vacation in San Miguel, Mexico. So that's a great memory of a trip with my mom and my sister. These are little pink French champagne flutes. I love those. I purchased those on eBay, and I just love to drink champagne from pink glasses. I picked up this bucket while I was in High Point with friends, and I love to fill it with champagne and create the party in the kitchen. I've always wanted an old masters painting, but they're usually rarely large. So I picked this up in Tuscaloosa, and I love the details of the flowers and the basket, and I even love this little, probably dead hermit crab. Poor little guy. I decided to fill the room with this great silver foil paper by Krabbit. It is covered in bunnies, Hunt Sloanum bunnies. They don't make it anymore, which just blows my mind. But it's been the perfect little addition to this space. I am not a cook. I am a professional microwaver, and I didn't need anything that was going to be functional. I wanted it to be beautiful. And so these bunnies just give me so much joy when I come in the morning to crack open my Diet Coke. They help bounce light around the room and create a little bit more of a feeling that it's a little bit larger because it is a foil and it's not just a flat paper. I bought this etagere for myself as a birthday present a few years back, and it's a great little bit of storage in the kitchen. This space is tiny, and I didn't have a place for cooking books. Not that I actually cook, but I aspire to. And I've filled it up with all the things that make me happy. Champagne, please. Why, yes, you're welcome. And then I picked up this chicken. I think he's a chicken. He might be a different kind of bird, but he's metal, and I've seen others like it at antique stores that are not made into a lamp, but I love him. He just makes me so happy. That little prickly element is nice. And then I have a couple of antique prints. I have several in the guest bedroom that match this one, but I stole that from my mom, and I stole that piece from my dad. It's a great little modern piece, a little gouache, and I've always loved it since I was a little kid. So when I had the opportunity to appropriate it, I did. So I had a couple of parties, and I had a whole bunch of extra alcohol left over, and I had no place to put the bottles. So I found this silver tray at an estate sale here in town, and I've just jammed that sucker full of everything. There is no rhyme or reason why it's in there. This is a great little humidor. Not really a humidor. It's a great little tobacco jar, and I've loved him. He's the shape of an elephant. In the state of Alabama, you have to choose if you're an Alabama fan, Roll Tide, or an Auburn fan. And so I'm a Bama fan, and I have me some elephants all over the place. I love to needlepoint. I love to make things with my hands. And so I made this little sign, and my friends know to just come on in, make themselves at home, and mix their own drink. So I wanted an interesting light fixture in the kitchen, and I searched high and low, and nothing that was new fit the bill. And so these are German light fixtures that I found on Cherish, and they're flower shaped, and there's 2 lights on one bar and another separate piece that I just love having 3 lights above that are not fully connected to each other. Just a quirky little element on the ceiling. Now I'd love to show you my hallway. Follow me. This is my hallway. It is the smallest space in my house, but I wanted to make it special. So I put a really fabulous Krabbit wallpaper on the ceiling. When I was in college, I got to study abroad, and I fell in love with paper from Florence. And so when this came out, I knew I had to have it. And the little feather light fixture is just girly and fun, and I just loved the little texture that it created. Right off of the hallway, we have my bathroom. It is a rather small little space, but it's one of the first spaces I touched when I moved into the house. This is a Schumacher snake print wallpaper. It's the first element I did when I moved into the house. It just needed a little bit of something to keep this space from feeling dowdy. And it was a great little black and white element, black and white crispness that this space just needed to keep it from feeling too small. About a year ago, I purchased 4 prints from Catherine Jones, and she is an artist in Georgia. She lived here in Birmingham for a little while. I love the graphic nature of her art in general. And these are on old French ledgers, and I just love that she's done a bunch of different shapes, and the colors are so graphic. Another element I love is this silver ginger jar, and I use it to hold an extra roll of toilet paper. I searched high and low for the one that's the right size because a lot of them are more oval in shape than round in shape. So about 2 years ago, I had a photo shoot for another client's house, and I took a bunch of rugs out for their powder room. When I started to lay them all out, I realized that I was obsessed with this rug and I didn't want them to have it. I had to have it. And so I squirreled it away in the back of my car and just prayed that it would look decent in here. I love the colors of this rug. They're some of my favorite colors. This bright citrusy orange with maroon and mint, it's just a great combination. A bathroom can be overlooked because it is typically a smaller space. But because it is small, I highly try and tell my clients to do something bolder in the bathroom because there's not that much wall space. It can quickly be done. And wallpaper is your friend, not your enemy. There's so many to choose from nowadays. So we could have taken this bathroom in a million different directions. I could have gone full color to contrast the black and white tile, but I wanted to keep it more subdued. But I also wanted to have some fun. So I always try and tell people, don't be afraid to have a little whimsy. Don't be afraid to go bold on the wall. If you don't like it, it's just like paint. You just take it off and you try something else. Now I'd love to show you my guest bedroom. Follow me. Welcome to my guest room. If you were coming to stay with me, this is where you'd be. This is the bed that my sister grew up in. It is an antique French bed from an orphanage. And if the bed was taken apart, you would see that on the back of the headboard, there is a number 5. So it was the 5th bed in a multiple series in an orphanage, which if I was an orphan, this is the bed I'd want to sleep in myself. I love the detail of the carved fruit and the little basket. It's just very girly. Eventually I'll have to let my sister have it again, but for now, it's mine. This is a chest that was my grandmother's, my paternal grandmother's. When I got it, the finish was in really poor condition. And so I painted it this really fun, happy blue color. It is what I keep all of my memos and samples in for my business. This room functions not only as my guest room, but a space where I prepare for my clients' meetings. So inside here are all my goodies. This is a picture that I drew in the 9th grade of some lilies. I think they're lilies. I can't really remember. But that was my 9th grade art project. And so it's a nice little space full of history and memories for me. These were my great aunt's crystal lamps, and to keep them from feeling dowdy, I got these really fun 70s style. So in this room, I wanted to have a nice textural rug. This is one I got from Rush House. They only come in one size, and then you cut off an edge on each one to fit it into your space. So that was a fun little project for me, cutting up a rug. And it just adds a nice layer, nice texture, and I like this small kind of nondescript pattern that the squares create. From the rug, you'll see one of my favorite possessions, my snail. He's a coffee table, actually. This top part unscrews, and a piece of glass can sit on top of him. My first foray into ADAC as a young designer, Travis and Company had a pair that were cocktail tables, and I was obsessed with them. They sold so quickly, I never even had a chance to see if I could purchase them myself. So for the last few years, well, 15 actually, I've been on the hunt for a snail of my own. And about 2 years ago, my friend Stephanie Linton and I were in Nashville for their antique show, and she called me and said, "I found him. You have to come and get him." And I literally ran from one side of the room to the other. So the piece of glass that goes on top of him is underneath the bed. And when I move into a larger home, he'll probably be the coffee table in my formal living room. So a snail is probably an odd animal to be your favorite animal. But when I was growing up, my favorite movie was the original Dr. Dolittle with Rex Harrison. It's a musical, actually. And they're on the hunt for this great pink sea snail that is mythical. And it's actually connected to this floating island. And so at the very end of the movie, you get to go inside the pink sea snail, and it's like being inside a genie's house because it's pink and it's shiny and it's just so happy. So I think that's probably where my obsession with snails came from. Good old Rex Harrison and the original Dr. Dolittle. So I needed a table in this room, but I wanted to have something that I could pull a chair under or an ottoman under, and not knowing I'd have the snail. And I found this at Maison de France here in Birmingham. And I got this on super sale when Spitzmiller's lamps were on sale with Visual Comfort. And I love the arms, the shape of the arm, the color of the glaze. All of his pieces are just so beautiful. It's not one color, it's multicolored, and it's that reactive glaze that they use over in Italy, and it's just one of my favorite things. When I'm working on a project and I am trying to sort through how I want a space to feel, I love to lay the fabrics out in a tray so that I can look at them and ponder. And I will play with them and move things around, and I'll just stare at it for a while because the colors are so important to me. And I want to make sure that there's a story being told. So I like to lay it out and think about how it would move throughout the space and what colors are going to be where, and kind of play with the percentage of fabrics that you'll see in a room so that you can get an idea of scale and proportion, but just on a microcosm. My journey to become an interior designer is a little interesting. I grew up in a house that had been decorated by an interior designer, and I've always loved a beautifully finished space. But I wanted to be a doctor, and I had full plans of being a plastic surgeon. I wanted to fix little babies' cleft palates in Africa, but my propenity to faint at the sight of blood was not going to allow me to do that. So I had a panic attack in college, and I was like, what in the world am I going to do? What am I even good at? Am I good at anything? And my roommate, she told me that I needed to try interior design. So I took a leap, and I changed my major. I dropped all my courses, and I picked up all new ones, and I've never looked back. I graduated in 2010, and I've been designing ever since. I've been incredibly fortunate to work for some of the South's greatest designers. So I've been taught very well, and I continue to try and learn from other people that are more talented than myself. I think sometimes it's hard to imagine yourself doing anything other than what you've pictured for yourself as a little kid, and for somebody else to tell you that you have a talent that you don't see in yourself is always nice. So I think it's really fun that she helped me in that area, because it definitely would not have come to me on my own. This guest bedroom really started with the trim that's on the draperies. It is a Holly Hunt trim that is dip dyed. It's kind of tie-dye kind of element. And when I saw it, I just knew I had to have it, and I couldn't live without it. And so I was trying to figure out the best way to work a room around just a trim. So I wanted to play up a bunch of different blues. And then blue and white just became a little boring. So I found this incredible Lisa Fine fabric that has all the blues that I wanted, but with a little pop of red, just to keep it from feeling too monochromatic. And I love this little light blue ticking stripe detail on the bed. Little elements like that are very important to me. there's always a wide angle and then a tight one. And so I want you to see something and wonder, what is the detail in that? And have to get up closer to it. And that's what this little ticking stripe does for me. Now I'd love for you to follow me to my primary bedroom. This is my primary bedroom. This was the absolute last space that I designed in this house. And I had a really hard time figuring out what on earth I was going to do in here. For most of my clients, I try to tell them to do their primary first. It's the place where you spend so much of your time that it should be an oasis for you. But I just could not figure out what I wanted. A friend of mine was in a shop here in town, and there were these vintage panels that she had tried to use for her daughter's bedroom, and they were too short. She has taller ceilings than I do, and she was like, you need these, you have to have these. And so I went to go and look at them, and I fell in love. I added the little trim. There's 2 different trims on here. There's a tape and these tassels, and I wanted to play up a different color than you probably would. Most people would probably go for the greens or the blues, but I wanted to play up these peachy colors because it's just a nice place to wake up when it's just very calm and soothing. So I had the walls painted this peachy color, and they just kind of fell flat. I had several weekends where I was just a little bored, and so I decided to paint the print that is going up the walls. It's a little bit of a pomegranate and it's a little bit of leaf. I really have no clue what it was. It just was something that felt natural to me. I love the way it curves and the lines that it creates, but it's very subtle, very tone on tone. It's not the first thing you notice when you walk in the room. I didn't want it to distract from the bolder pattern of the drapery. When I was thinking about how to get the bed ready and how I wanted it dressed, I tried a bunch of different white sheeting, and it just was too harsh. So I had these custom Matouk sheets made. They're pink and peach, and I use lots of pillows. A princess needs multiple pillows, and so I use 4 to sleep at night, but I didn't want 4 bed pillows and shams and a bolster. It just was going to become too heavy on the bed and be like half the bed covered in pillows. So I used sheeting shams as my pillowcases, and I put my monogram in the upper corner so my face wouldn't be touching it while I slept at night. So the only pillow I have to remove before I go to sleep is this bolster. I filled it with foam instead of down, so it's lighter in weight and it can just sit up in the corner. So it's pretty easy to go to bed at night. Just pop this little sucker on the corner, pop this little sucker on the floor, and I can just slide right into bed. So this is an antique Suzani that I purchased on Etsy, and it just had all the colors that I wanted to help finish off the space. It's got little scorpions and little turtles. It's even got fish, koi fish, and little deer. It's all hand embroidered and it's on silk. So it's a really lovely piece that I am considering turning into like a quilted coverlet or something like that for a little bit of puff. But I've loved having it. It's easy to throw around. It's just really lightweight. So this is a English chest that my father gave me for my 22nd birthday. I don't think most 22-year-olds get chest of drawers for their birthday, but he knew exactly what I wanted. I am a sucker for little wooden knobs and just all the little clean, soft elements. And it's a very easy piece to use in and out daily. I love it. It's a nice little memory as well. I picked up this little bee while shopping in Nashville. I want to be a beekeeper. I can't have bees in my current home, but one day I'm going to be wearing that white outfit, smoking bees out and getting my own honey. So I love him. Probably my favorite piece of art in my house is this piece. It's by Frank Fleming. He's a local artist. He has a childlike whimsy about his pieces, and it is just a conglomeration of a bunch of different things. When I bought it from the dealer, they said it was probably a piece of okra with a dog's head, bird wings, and a foot. I love that piece. I would love to have more of Frank's work, but they're hard to come by these days. So this is my portrait from when I was a little girl. The artist, Whitworth, is based in New York, and my mother flew him to Birmingham to take these pictures, and I would not cooperate. So these pictures were actually taken back home in Columbus, Georgia, but in order to get this picture, my mom bribed me by letting me wear my Minnie Mouse outfit and my plastic Cinderella shoes. So only through bribery and candy does this painting exist, because I was a stubborn pain as a child. Probably as an adult as well. I don't have those pictures here. I'm sure those pictures are in a box somewhere in my mom's house. They're somewhere to be found, but I remember just a multitude of plastic pearls, my pink Cinderella slippers, and just screaming and crying, not wanting to take this picture. It's probably why I look a little forlorn. This is my sister's chest of drawers. She doesn't have room for it. She lives out in California, and so I am using this in the meantime. It's where I keep most of my t-shirts and things like that. But above it, I have a great piece of modern art by Amy Calloway, and I love this piece. I love that it's in an old kind of crusty frame, and the juxtaposition between the two of old and new is just really nice to me. Again, my favorite color, pink. I have so many pink vases, it's really hard to count. But I wanted another modern element. I have a very traditional lamp on my bedside table, and so I found this piece here in Birmingham, and it is just a nice little airy piece of texture as far as the shade is concerned. And then I have a little collection of antique crystal jars that my dad has gifted me over the years. They're just little fun silver pieces with a bunch of different initials that don't belong to me. So before I went out on my own, I worked for a designer here in Birmingham, and I tried for years to get a client to purchase this chair. It was covered in a horrendous yellow damask that was just thread-borne and just looked very tattered. But I love this chair because it ratchets back. It's like a antique lazy boy chair, but you can lift the pins on the sides of the chair and it will lean back. So I had it recovered in white leather just to keep it bright, not like an antique wingback chair and brown leather would be. Just something soft and a little feminine. And then I loved these little blue tape and the space nail heads to give it like a little line. Again, like lipstick or an eyeliner, just helps it pop. I fell in love with this Holland and Sherry print. They don't make it anymore, but it's hand-blocked print, and I just love that color of citron. And when I was in France, I purchased these reams of old trim. So it's metal bullion fringe, and I just love it. It's a great little texture. It's like a little bit of masculinity and femininity all in one. And sometimes I'll just come over here and play with the fringe. So these are some stools I found at Round Top at Marburger, and they needed to be recovered, and my original zebra rug died. So I cut up the zebra and recovered the tops of them just to have a little graphic nature. Wanted to make sure that none of the patterns were super lined up and everything was a little askew, just to make it a little bit more fun. Well, Homeworthy, I hope you enjoyed the tour. That's it for here, and I hope to see you again next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.